So guys, some stuff to talk about today, as you can tell from the title. It seems that things keep kind of piling on and on and on, to the point of where it is reaching the discourse of the inevitable. As you've seen from various reports out there the past couple of days, that Ezra Miller is fired from The Flash. Yes, but no, but yes, and you'll see what I mean. So what I'm gonna do is dig into this article, get into the most relevant paragraphs and give my take on it, and just what I think's gonna go on with this movie, what this means for WB, Warner Brothers Discovery, and it's just the thing about the Flash movie that we're gonna echo throughout this video quite a bit, is that it was and is still and always has been intended to be a really big launching point into the next phase of the DCEU. So coming from Deadline, even though it isn't on the Warner Brothers release calendar until June 23rd, 2023, which by the way, probably was pushed back a little bit because of stuff like this floating out there, not just because of VFX, as a lot of us were somewhat theorizing back then, but The Flash is becoming Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav's first movie crisis because of the escalating coverage of incidents of volatile and odd behavior involving the film star Ezra Miller. They go on to say that Zaslav has made clear his desire to grow the DC universe to MCU scale and has all the ingredients of a first foot forward in The Flash, including the return of Michael Keaton as Batman, along with a reprise by Ben Affleck, a $200 million budget, and a hot director in Andy Muschietti. So, this is what I was saying at the beginning of the video. David Zaslav is already, I've made videos, do check him out, because there's a lot of stuff going on at the minute. Even my last video, what is going on with the Green Lantern HBO Max series. The video before that, talking about Warner Brothers Discovery, that there is this big overhaul of DC Entertainment. New guys coming in, and he's like, look, you've clearly had some hits, you have, but there's been some misses, and there's stuff that needs to be salvaged because you're not utilizing certain characters. There's lots of stuff going on. But one of them that they had a firm new direction and was meant to somewhat pave the way to the future DCEU was the Flash movie. We know what Barry Allen is capable of. We know what Flashpoint has done in the comics. You can look at the DCEU, the new universe that will be going forward. Even though I don't want to say it's like a massive outright reboot, but it's like going from New 52 to Rebirth. You keep some things, but it's also, taking a new hold going forward with certain bits and pieces. So Aquaman would still be Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Barry Allen as the Flash. We're gonna get to that, not so much anymore. But you would also have Sasha Calle Supergirl. You would have Michael Keaton as the Batman of this new universe after the film's events are concluded, with the new universe being, well, a new universe. And the Flash movie, without repeating myself too much, but this really needs to be stressed here, as Zaslav has made clear, Deadline says, his desire to grow the DC universe to MCU scale and has all the ingredients of a first foot forward in The Flash. This is the Flashpoint movie. Granted that it won't be a straight up adaptation of Flashpoint, because Andy Muschietti has already stated that, but it's definitely, as you can tell, getting timey-wimey. Look at, Batgirl, you have Michael Keaton's Batman in there. Oh, but you have the same Gordon as per the one who was with Ben Affleck's Batman. So clearly this movie was meant to be huge and setting the precedent for the next 10-ish years of mainline DC movies, such as Black Adam and things like that. Those characters in the future would be in this post-Flashpoint universe. But now you have arguably the most pivotal, universal changing movie in your mainline canonical continuity of DC movies, because obviously Matt Reeves' The Batman is in its own little pocket place. The Joker movies are in their little Elseworlds place. This is the most pivotal thing for your mainline, as they're kind of saying, MCU type, striving for thing. But yeah, you have this, and it's exactly what I noted down here in one of my other bullet points. If you go over to Vanity Fair's article, and their subheading states, The Flash was supposed to launch a new and profitable chapter for the studio. Now it's hope for the best. But let's carry on. So Deadline, and this is where we're going to get some of the meat, because again, as I said, fired, yes, but no, but kind of yes, will be. Lots of articles like to get lots of clicks, so it's like, Ezra Miller, they've been completely fired, straight up. The movie isn't happening, or it's just like in the middle of shooting. So if you're reading anything like, oh, Ezra Miller was fired during the shoot of The Flash or anything like that, that's just not true and a really big misrepresentation of what's really going on. But let's continue. Deadline has heard the studio has tried getting help for Miller, but the troubling headlines continue to pile up. Could you send a potential liability on a global publicity tour and have the actor anchor a huge studio franchise play? So this is why I'm doing it part by part, because there's just so much to say on each part of like this article. So I mean, yeah, everyone has been wondering. So the first part, Deadline has learned the studio has tried to get help for Miller. Everyone's been wondering, is Warner Brothers doing anything? And it's just like, from my perspective, like, whether you like how Warner Brothers is handling this or not, of course they have been trying to do something with the multiple arrests in Hawaii, and then this, and then that, and then this. You really think they're just like, I mean, I know they're not talking about it, whether you agree or disagree. From a business standpoint, you don't really want to comment on something like this. You just kind of want to sweep it under the rug, no matter how much of a double standard or this, that, and the other you feel. With a $200 million impending movie coming out, you're just going to give your movie so much more bad press if you address it. So that's, long story short there, why they haven't been doing that. But that doesn't mean that they haven't been just like getting on the phone. It's like, Ezra, you need to stop. Like, what, can we get a publicist on the phone? Just somebody? It doesn't mean that they haven't been going ham with things like that. But at the end of the day, with The Flash filmed and done, they can only have so much reach and communication with a person the police can't even find right now. And we'll get to that because of recent reports and a judge granting a certain thingy-majig. And we'll get into thingy-majig. They need to serve Ezra Miller, but you can't really serve someone something a judge has approved when you can't even find them. So they have tried to get help from Miller, but regardless, they're not Miller's parents. They can only try and reach out to somebody close to them. And regardless, if Ezra's doing their own thing out in Hawaii, it's just like, as a studio, you can only really do so much. Offer your support, try and offer like things there. But, if imagine me or you are just going wherever and whenever. It's just like, good luck if I don't even want to pick up the phone. And it really does feel like that is what is happening. The studio can only do so much. And if anything, sit there and bite their nails, hoping nothing more happens. And lastly, on that last part, this is why things are so interesting for the next year. It's just like, how do we salvage anything with this film? Because could you send a potential liability on a global publicity tour and have the actor anchor a huge studio franchise play? Imagine the Batman having a press tour, as you do, you might go on Hot Ones on the YouTube channel to that other typical interview. Imagine Robert Pattinson didn't do any press for the Batman himself. It'd be like, wait, what? Like, that's so weird. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because The Flash, how can you put Ezra Miller on a press tour for this movie? Like, I'm not even saying, even if Ezra was like cool-headed throughout the whole tour, obviously there's going to be questions. So do you see what I'm trying to say? The Flash, the title character, Barry Allen, Ezra Miller, how can they go on a press tour before this movie to promote the film with everything that's happened? This is just one piece of this unraveling story. So, speaking of the choices that can be done with David Zaslav here. So, Deadline say Zaslav has several choices and he will make one of them soon. Among them, he could pull back on heavily promoting the summer 2023 film, confining it to some P&A and no publicity tour. Or he can relegate it to streaming with HBO Max and take a write down, or lean in toward making the movie a hit and then drop Miller if they can straighten things out. They go on to additionally say that Warner Brothers did that when it dropped Johnny Depp from the Grindelwald character in the Fantastic Beasts franchise after the actor's well-publicized, unsuccessful UK lawsuit. The studio replaced Depp with Mads Mikkelsen. So that's, the thing about this is they've already shot the film, everything's done, they are like just polishing VFX. It was meant to come out a lot sooner than June 23rd, 2023. It's very much so baking in the oven. It's practically about to go ding, ding, ding. Like, you can get it out almost now. There's reported rumors of test screenings. Apparently, it's actually pretty good. People were saying, don't take that as a fact. But regardless, it's very much so ready to go. So the difference between Johnny Depp there and Ezra Miller is they don't want to just, and this is why, if you're asking, why don't they just reshoot the whole film? It's so much easier said than done. Yes, it can be done, but it would be an insane absolutely almost incomprehensible undertaking that it would be a huge L in the Warner Brothers Discovery bank account. Like, you may as well actually just not just reshoot scenes, but you may as well just reshoot the bloody movie and get everyone back in. Again, it's really not as black and white as just be like, yeah, just replace Ezra Miller's scenes. So I find it very interesting, and I'm glad that Deadline pointed out the kind of 3 options that Zaslav can take here. And that is, number 1, just basically pull back on any kind of press of what would heavily promote the summer 2023 movie and just still have it release. Or he can, put it on HBO Max. The thing I find about that, even though this is a very likely option, I might add, is that it's just so weird to me that as we went over in towards the beginning of this video, that DC's kind of biggest movie, like the kind of New 52 to DC Rebirth move, is just going to be an HBO Max release. Obviously, we understand why. It's just fascinating, isn't it? That it's meant to be their multiversally kind of movie that's been in the works for years. So before any No Way Home comments, oh, they're copying Marvel, please don't. Like, the Flashpoint story has been around for a while, but I digress. Their big move, without repeating so much of what I said earlier, you know why it's big, just releases on HBO Max. People will see it, and I'm sure people will even buy subscriptions to see it. It's just... It's crazy how that was meant to be such a big theatrical release, and then it's just, HBO Max. And of course, again, we understand why. It's just, that is a very likely option. They might just have to swallow the pill and just do it. Or lastly, lean in towards making the movie a hit and then drop Miller if they can't straighten things out. Now, that probably was what they were doing. Lots of people have been asking me, like, why don't Warner Brothers make a statement? Because that last option is what they were trying to hope for. Making it a hit still, salvaging the $200+ million movie when there was just kind of one arrest thing, and I'm not condoning anything, but that's something you can somewhat sweep under the rug a little bit. You're kind of thinking, yeah, we're going to still double down and make this a hit, and then, considering the outcome of said allegations or alleged incidents here and there, we might decide whether or not, as was originally reported in previous videos I've talked about, they had like a meeting to discuss Ezra Miller's future. But at that time, the last option here of lean in towards making the movie a hit and drop Ezra Miller if they can't straighten things out was, the course that they were going to take. But I don't see how they can take that now. So it's either HBO Max, or they still do a theatrical release with very minimal marketing, and if anything, redirecting the marketing more towards Batman and Sasha Calle's Supergirl. As ironic as that sounds, even though it's the Flash movie, that is another thing we need to discuss here, which is why I wanted to make a big ramble video about this, because there's so many things to consider. People are saying, and rightfully so, they could, market some of the other things, but isn't that just crazy? Because it's the Flash movie. This is how much crap they're dealing with. Like, they might have to heavily shift their marketing away from the actual character of the movie. Now, one of the sources tells Deadline there is no winning in this for Warner Bros. One studio source tells us this is an inherited problem for Zaslav. The hope is that the scandal will remain at a low level before the movie is released, and hope for the best to turn out. This is where the fired headlines come into play, and I know we took a while to get to this point of the video, but sources said even if no more allegations surface, the studio won't likely keep Miller in the Flash role in future DC films. That would mean replacing him in the future, but there is still a $200 million investment on the line with the first film, and Warner Brothers execs have to be cringing at each new press report. And this isn't something, despite these headlines, that's kind of what confused me. This is something I expected anyway. I guess maybe earlier on they did say that they were just putting on hold any future stuff with Ezra Miller and any future movies they were involved with. And as for replacing, I don't agree with the Wally West stuff. It's really weird to me. Again, this is another pile in the pile of weird. I've got lots of people coming to me, and fair enough, I get the speculation, but they're like, oh yeah, what if Wally is the new Speedster, so we can still have Speedster films in the universe? But from a story perspective, even with us saying, okay, yeah, we get it, real life stuff, The Flash has their movie, the first solo movie exploring Barry more than ever we've got before from the other movies they've appeared in, and then, The Flash in universe story-wise disappears and Wally's the new Flash? No, that doesn't make sense. Just do a recast. You can't just I know The Flash has been here for a while in the DCEU, but you can't just bring in Barry, first solo movie, and then Wally. I get it. I get the desire for that, but I would prefer and audiences are smart enough to understand that we can get past a recast. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't replace in-universe and narrative-wise the character with Wally. Keep Barry, but just recast the actor, sorry. Now, just in case, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but there may be some who might not be like insanely up to date with the recent reports concerning Ezra. Let's just summarize them. So there have been 2 more rounds of unflattering headlines just in the last 2 weeks for the 29-year-old Miller, who identifies as non-binary. The Daily Beast reported that there was a temporary harassment prevention order this week from a 12-year-old and a mother in Greenfield, Massachusetts, against the actor after Miller allegedly menaced the family and acted inappropriately towards the non-binary child. And then, last week, as Deadline says, the parents of an 18-year-old named Takata Ionized filled paperwork asking a judge to issue an order of protection against the actor on behalf of their child, saying Miller groomed and brainwashed Takata. Ezra uses violence, intimidation, threat of violence, fear, paranoia, delusions, and drugs to hold sway over a young adolescent Takata, read the filing, which was obtained by multiple outlets. Then they go on to say that the 18-year-old's parents allege the 2 met at Standing Rock Reservation in North Dakota when their child was just 12. The parents allege Miller gave Takata alcohol and drugs, flew the child to London and to places such as Vermont, New York, California, and Hawaii. The past week, Miller deleted his Instagram account in the face of the North Dakota tribal summons, the actor allegedly mocking authorities about their whereabouts. More really strange reports coming out there. Takata on their Instagram has denied a lot of their parents' claims, and now I think Takata is with Ezra right now when they're 18. If I remember correctly as well, Takata, for example, has dropped out of her private high school in Massachusetts in December. Supposedly, her parents said to live with Miller in Vermont and go on road trips with them all over the country. And then, according to Los Angeles Times, a tribal court judge approved the interim order Tuesday, but the court cannot locate or serve Miller, as we were saying earlier. And then, of course, prior to this, there was the 2 arrests. One for a dust-up at a karaoke bar. There's body cam footage of that, if you want to check that out for yourself. Followed up by an arrest for a second-degree assault at a residence where I believe there's an alleged kind of chair thrown. And ultimately, my takeaway is that the Flash movie will be releasing. It feels very, very obvious that they've invested too much into this movie now. A lot of money, you know, a few $100 million. It's already shot. They're not going to go back through and reshoot every scene. That in of itself would just be even more money. So to minimize the loss, what they can do is still, as what was reported by Deadline, aspire for a theatrical release with minimized marketing in terms of like a press, you know, no Ezra on press. Just try and do some damage control, but still try and get some movie tickets for the cinemas. Or, of course, they can just do an HBO Max release. Now, personally, I think that they're probably going to aim for a theatrical release, a day and date, like, you know, HBO Max, you can watch it on there. Or, you know, if you want to still, like, we get it, guys, but, like, you want to buy a ticket to the cinema, like, and see it there, we're still going to offer you that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're still going to put it in cinemas, massively reduced promo for the movie in terms of, like, no, you know, interviews, things like that for Ezra Miller. You can dial this to, like, a few narrative outcomes. It's like, you know, RPG style, like, if you choose this option, it might go that way. If you choose this option, it might go that way. That is still yet to be seen, because guess what? Things have been happening continuously. Sometimes there's a little bit of quiet and then boom, another story. We have got until June 23rd, 2023. I'm not saying another thing's going to happen with Ezra, but it can still happen, obviously, as it has been. So it could still aim for a theatrical release alongside HBO Max. As of right now, they're still intending to completely get rid of Ezra after the movie, recast the actor for the character. But if more happens, they could just make it an HBO Max film. But let me know your thoughts. You know, I think this, you know, movie is happening regardless. Do not think that they're going to completely replace Ezra again. I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong, but that's how confident I am. Like, this movie's already shot. They're not going to, you know, so it's happening. It's just a matter of release now. But, you know, Ezra's future, I would say, like, no. So everyone, let me know your thoughts. Appreciate you, all those of you who stayed this long to hear my rambly, tangenty, ranty thoughts. Definitely a lot to consider with this. There's, you know, the interesting thing is there's variations of what could happen. As I said with the weird RPG comparison, there are variations, but it is all leading. All those roads will converge at a point of release in some way, shape, or form, and then no more Ezra Miller. Could still be, you know, I feel bad for everyone else involved, like Andy Muschietti. You know, it could still be a fun movie with Keaton, Batflex. You know, as I said, the movie and the product, despite what you feel about Ezra, could still be really fun. But it's just so tainted. So I'm going to shut up now. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Would really appreciate that. It helps me out so much. Check out my Green Lantern video. If you want to know what's going on with the HBO Max Green Lantern series up to date. And also maybe even DC's Strange Adventures. Remember that one? Check out that. But I'm out today. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you speedsters in the next video. Goodbye.